is a News Center 3 update.
This morning's news and weather is brought to you in part by Wichita Appliance Parts.
Good morning. Thank you for starting this Monday with us. I'm Barry Levy, and it looks like we have a humid day in store with temperatures expected to hit the low 90s. John will be along shortly with more on the weather, but first the news. Your phone service won't be interrupted by striking Southwestern Bell workers, but others aren't so lucky. 70,000 telephone workers are on strike across the country, citing wage disagreements in their contracts. The dispute is between Communication Workers of America and several of the so-called Baby Bell Company. Locally, workers averted a strike by reaching tentative agreements with management late Saturday night. This morning, a Wichita Falls family is homeless following a fire that swept through their home last evening. Jerry and Lucy Petty of 1611 Cole escaped from their home when they say they saw the house begin to fill with smoke. Firefighters arrived on the scene with much of the building in flames. Damage to the home and contents has been set at $12,000, and the cause is said to be electrical. Today in Dallas, Montague County Sheriff Harry Walker is set to go on trial on federal pornography charges. Walker has waived his right to a jury trial and will appear before a U.S. District Judge. His problem started back on May 1st when he was arrested outside the Bowie Post Office. According to investigators, Walker had been mailing photographs of minors engaging in sexual activity, which is a federal offense. Well, it looks like we have a chance of rain today. John's next with the weather. Stay with us.
This is a News Center 3 update.
This morning's news and weather is brought to you in part by Wichita General Hospital.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us on this Tuesday. I'm Barry Levy. Hopefully yesterday's humidity wasn't much of a bother to you. According to John, we'll have more today, and he'll join us in just a few moments with more on the weather, but first the news. How much does it cost for Wichita Falls Police to keep you protected? From what Police Chief Curtis Harrelson told City Council members, it's not cheap. The chief wants more than $7 million for his department, the biggest part of which would go for new employees to boost an understaffed police force. Harrelson also wants to employ an attorney. He says this would be helpful in other matters, such as preparing search warrants and other arrest-related documents. When you go out this morning, driving to work or running some errands, and you buckle up with a lap belt, are you really safe? A report released by the National Transportation Safety Board says it doubts the effectiveness of lap belts only. They claim the shoulder and lap belt combination is the best protection and want car makers to start putting them in back seats as well as front. For Texoma oil workers, this week could mean good news. For the fourth week in a row, the number of active oil and gas rigs has risen. There are now 734 working rigs across the nation. That's up from an all-time low of 663 just a month ago. Texas has taken the lead in new drilling permits with 8,786, but that's still only half the number of a year ago. John's next with the weather. With a look at the weather, stay with us. John, we've had some pretty nice weather. Is rain going to ruin things for us?
I don't think there's any chance of that over the next couple of days. In fact, let's look at National Color Radar.
Hospital.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us on this Thursday. I'm Barry Levy. It looks like there's no getting around it. Hot weather is on its way to Texoma today. Temperatures will be the highest they've been all week, but will partly cloudy skies yield some rain? We have a 20% chance, and I'll have more on the weather in just a few moments, but first the news. Will tax reform issues be the nail that seals the coffin on the oil industry? Texoma oilman Bob Gunn is in Washington this morning and hopes he can prevent that from happening. Geologist Gunn told News Center 3 that he and Congressman Bo Bolter will meet with President Reagan this afternoon. Their purpose is to fight for tax incentives they say can help keep oilmen searching and drilling for domestic oil.
Domestic oil industry, I think, is most important in this country's not only economic security, but military security.
Gunn says at stake are the intangible drilling costs and the depletion allowances. Both of these tax incentives amount to dollars used in exploration by the oil industry. The tax reform bill is now in a joint House-Senate conference committee. That committee is expected to vote on the bill by midnight Friday. Bolter and Gunn hope to sway President Reagan to side with the Senate, which is now in favor of tax incentives most oilmen want. During the past 2 weeks, there have been some promising signs that the Texas economy is on the way up. However, Texas Comptroller Bob Bullock is predicting the state's budget deficit could reach $5 billion by January. Bullock says a statewide lottery could help raise $55 million the first year, not to mention some excitement for Texans, he says. A Senate committee hearing on the lottery proposal was adjourned yesterday because Governor Mark White has not opened the special legislative session to consider the idea. A heated dispute is brewing in our airways. The National Academy of Science is proposing a ban on cigarette smoking on airplanes. The tobacco industry has quickly denounced the idea as unjustified, but some airlines are listening to complaints of non-smokers. Continental Airlines will soon be offering a 10% discount to passengers who don't light up. The discount is in response to a report released yesterday that cites health and safety risks connected with smoking on airplanes. In Houston, a teenager faces life in prison after being convicted of what prosecutors called a thrill killing. 18-year-old Harold Glenn Smith has been found guilty in the August 6th slaying of Dennis Medler. Prosecutors alleged Medler was killed by 5 devil-worshipping friends just for the fun of watching him die. We'll be back with the weather. Stay with us. In Texoma weather this morning, moist, unstable Gulf air is covering the northeast sections of Texas and Oklahoma. Thunderstorms are being reported over the northern Texas Panhandle and northern Oklahoma. Rain chances will spread southward today. Currently in Wichita Falls, skies are mostly clear. The temperature is 76 degrees. Humidity stands at 71%. Wind is from the south at 14 miles per hour, and the barometer reads 29.90. I'll be back with today's forecast in just a moment. High today and tomorrow in the upper 90s, low tonight in the mid-90s. Winds southerly at 10 to 20. Rain chances are 30% tonight. Be sure and join Jody Gilkey and Skip McBride at noon. Have a good day.
This is a News Center 3 update.
This morning's news and weather is brought to you in part by Nina Ray's and Kruger's.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us on this Wednesday. I'm Barry Levy. As John sees it, yesterday's heat is going to be outdone by today's. Temperatures are expected to pass the 105 mark, but late this evening, believe it or not, there's a very slight chance for rain. John will be along in a moment with more on the weather, but first the news. School is getting ever closer, and Lieutenant Governor Bill Hobby wants stricter enforcement of education reforms. He's proposing fining school districts when graduates can't read or write properly. The proposal is getting some support in Austin. Representative Bill Haley, who chairs the House Committee on Public Education, says it might not be a bad idea. The proposal would tax school districts, not taxpayers, for college remedial education. A break for you. On Nightcast last night, we brought you a very tense situation photographed by a Burke Burnett man with his home video camera. Larry Ford was driving on the H.E. Bailey Turnpike yesterday when he spotted an 18-wheeler in flames. We'll let him take it from here.
Propane tank blowed up.
What caused your fire?
Well, a deer run out from me right there and went down that way, and when I skidded my brakes, I guess evidently that's what blowed that tank.
Is this thing you got on the back, is that explosive?
No.
Just a propane tank is the only thing that's explosive?
On the back, just a big separator.
Just a big separator. We're just glad nobody was hurt.
Talking about burning, that's burning like hell, boy.
Boy, this heat is intense even across the road. We're always all the way across the double highway here on H.E. Bailey Turnpike. And the heat is intense, I'll tell you right now.
We'd like to thank Mr. Ford for bringing us this story and also tell him a job well done. John's next with the weather. Stay with us.
A hearing held by the Wichita Falls School Board tonight has eased tensions between the Family YMCA and several private daycare centers in the city. Tension between the two had been brewing since an agreement between the school district and the YMCA to allow the Y to operate a daycare facility. Nightcast reporter Barry Levy attended tonight's meeting, and he joins us now in our newsroom. Barry, why did daycare owners bring their grievances to the school board tonight?
Cindy, one daycare owner says use of the Y's facility is increasing and unfairly taking business away from the private owner.
3 years ago, the school board voted to allow the Y to operate a daycare program. Tonight, a move has been made that could halt the program's success.
We agree with Dr. Williamson regarding the need for preschool and after-school daycare. We strongly disagree that the existing private daycare centers are not meeting that need.
What Joe Pence and other daycare owners would like is the school district to stop placing a heavy emphasis on the use of the YMCA program. Pence claims his and other centers can actually meet and beat the cost for parents to send their children to the Y, and that private owners have more to offer.
Their children have been coming to our center for several years, and they wish to continue in our program.
There are 45 licensed private daycare facilities in the city. Pence figures the YMCA is taking over $65,000 from their pockets while operating a daycare center. But the YMCA claims their growing success is a sign that people want to keep this program open.
Cindy, the school board has promised to look further into this situation and will address the issues in a future meeting. Also tonight, the board voted to hold off on setting the tax rate, the school tax rate, until the special session in Austin has ended.
And that looks like that may take a while. All right, thank you very much, Barry.
Is the danger you express in certain situations going to cause you health problems later in your life? According to medical studies, anger can cause depression, heart attack, and even cancer. Nightcast reporter Barry Levy attended a seminar on anger tonight, and he's standing by in our newsroom. Barry?
Bill, the problems you mentioned are very real, and we have some simple tips to help people stay healthy by avoiding anger.
Anger can be used to motivate or strike out destructively.
Bill, to many physicians, anger is the loss of self-control, and people can prevent the emotion from getting out of hand by looking past the act that's causing the anger and realize it can be easily resolved without losing control.
Get to know yourself.
Very true.
Thanks very much, Barry. Cindy? Job in Texoma, and you came up empty-handed. A recent survey by the Manpower Corporation shows the next 3 months will be even tougher. The quarterly employment report shows 27% of employers in the South expect to make staff reductions. Nightcast reporter Barry Levy is standing by in our newsroom with information on where you might spend your time trying to find a job. Barry?
Bill, employers anticipate twice as many people looking for jobs this year as compared to last year. But this shouldn't put a damper on someone's hopes because people are hiring. You just have to know where to put that application. The results from this report could change at any time, and the factor will be oil prices. So if people get out now and put in those applications, they stand a good chance of getting a job somewhere in Wichita Falls.
The lower oil prices are really starting to hit a lot of different businesses.
They're affecting many factors of society. Yes, they are.
Okay, Barry. Thank you very much. Wichita Falls teachers, however, are enjoying benefits from last year's bond election. In the election, Wichitans voted to use $22 million to upgrade school buildings in the city. If you've wondered how construction is coming along and if there are cost overruns, Nightcast reporter Barry Levy standing by in the newsroom with details. Barry, tell us about it.
Bill, this story should please, if not amaze, the taxpayers of Wichita Falls. The numerous construction projects are on schedule, and there's still $11 million left to make education more enjoyable for teachers and students.
If you have children in school, they may be bothered by the constant sound of construction, but to school officials and teachers, it's pure music.
Bill, as I said earlier, there's still $11 million ready to be put to use with one of the largest projects still to go. It's a $2 million special education facility to be located at Cunningham Elementary School, and it should be underway by the end of this year.
Good to know it's all coming along well. Thanks very much for that report, Barry.
The answers to help your loved ones cope with the problem. A Wichita Falls psychiatrist says your solution may be a book away. Dr. Grant Wagner says education and self-examination of the attitudes will help you cope with the family death or divorce of other crisis. Nightcast reporter Barry Levy spoke with Dr. Wagner about families dealing with the crisis and joins us now from our newsroom. Barry?
Leslie, Dr. Wagner has 2 suggestions for coping with a crisis. Be prepared by educating yourself, and when the time comes to deal with the problem, make sure you involve the entire family.
Single-parent outings with the kids are a common sight in the 80s. So common, in fact, the causes, divorce and separation, are the #1 family crisis in the nation.
About 50% of all new marriages these days are ending in divorce.
Dr. Grant Wagner is an authority on dealing with a crisis in the family and says being prepared is the best protection against family suffering.
About things like parents spending time as a couple as well as just parents to give themselves time off from the raising of the children so that they'll have more energy when the crisis comes about.
Even the most secure families can suffer legal problems, financial trouble, or personality conflicts. These and other critical times can build pressure and inflict long-lasting effects, such as fear, guilt, and anger.
I would say rely on the Lord would be the first. Keep an open ear and eye. Realize that one's expectation influences how they experience something, so they must be good listeners, particularly with children.
Dr. Wagner and other specialists say it's it's very important to be honest with children during these times of trouble. They'd also like to see friends help out by being good listeners, and in reference to what he mentioned about books, or what was mentioned in the introduction, he suggests that if you are having problems and you don't want to seek help from a professional, there's several good books out. And to end on a good note, statistics show for the past 2 years the divorce rate has been steadily dropping.
Okay, Barry, thank you very much.
This is News Center 3 Nightcast with the News Center 3 News Team.
Good evening. Tonight, a leak discovered in a Wichita Falls reservoir had nearby residents prepared to evacuate their homes. City officials say the reservoir located on Fairway Boulevard poses no threat to residents in that area. Nightcast reporter Barry Levy is on the scene of the water problem. Barry, how did city workers discover the leak today?
Cindy, Jerry Gross of the City Water Department says residents had noticed an accumulation of water in their alley throughout the week, which is not normal. Tonight, workers checked the reservoir and discovered there is a small leak, but it's located beneath the reservoir, not supporting walls, which is a good sign. At this time, workers are pumping water from the secondary reservoir into an adjoining water tank. When the level is low enough, which should be Monday, maintenance crews will seal the leak and refill the storage tank. Workers will stay through the night to monitor the leak and supervise the transfer of water. Cindy, Jerry Gross mentioned that the leak is actually seepage, which is not dangerous. However, if residents living near the reservoir notice an accumulation of water behind their home, they're advised to contact the City Water Department immediately.
Thank you very much, Barry. So some concern there, but as long as they watch it, everything is all right.
It shouldn't be dangerous.
All right, should not. Thank you very much, Barry.
Well, tonight you may be one of the hundreds of people rushing to the post office to have your tax forms postmarked by midnight. If so, of course, you have only about an hour and 55 minutes to do that. Nightcast reporter Barry Levy standing by in line with those trying to beat the cutoff time. Barry, what's the line like? Oh, there are people there.
Bill, I couldn't quite make it to the line because it has been rather busy, but there must be more activity here than any other area in Wichita Falls. However, we did have a chance to break away and visit with a group opposed to most taxing, and they happen to be meeting tonight and have some advice for last-minute taxpayers.
The group is the Taxpayers League of North Texas, and their motto seems to be increase business by keeping that nasty state income tax only a thought. Organizer Jimmy Horaney says the group is looking out for honest taxpayers and watching tax money users closely.
Our main concern about taxes is to keep a low tax base for the city and the school district and the county governmental agencies so that attract more industry.
Tonight, the group discussed budget cutting, and they suggested state agencies clean up their spending habits. But Horaney also had some suggestions on the side for people standing in line tonight at the post office.
Well, I'd say we encourage everybody to pay their taxes that are just and fair and not try to evade any taxes because they'll just shift the burden.
Bill, people have exactly 1 hour and 53 minutes to get their tax forms postmarked before midnight, but they shouldn't feel alone because 10 million other people in the United States will be joining them.
Including you?
Luckily, I got mine in a little bit early.
Good for you. Thanks, Barry. How about you, Linda? Tonight, did you realize every time your heart beats, about that long, 3 babies are born in the world? This comes from local population specialists who want your help in controlling population problems in Texoma and worldwide. Nightcast reporter Barry Levy is following the story, and he joins us now from our newsroom. Barry, how are Texomans making themselves aware of the problem of overpopulation?
Bill, the easiest way seems to be realizing we're all victims of enormous population growth. Already since this story began, there have been 117 new mouths to feed in the world.
Usually walk through a spacious mall is a good atmosphere to put overpopulation at the back of your mind, but it's also a big mistake.
When I was born, the population of the United States was 105 million. It is now 250 million.
In Dr. Baird Whitlock's life, the population of the U.S. has doubled. This is just one reason why he and 3 fellow population control proponents held this news conference to expose growth problems. The 4 say foreign countries are hit hardest, and Dr. Whitlock cites an astounding example.
In the 60s, there was a very large flood in Pakistan, and over 250,000 people were killed on a Thursday as the flood waters came down the main river in Pakistan. That was Thursday. On Monday morning, the population of Pakistan was larger than it had been the previous Wednesday.
Also present was sociology professor Emily LeBeff.
They don't seem to understand quite the ramifications with regard to food, living space, conflicts, depletion of natural resources.
Reverend Michael Parsons.
I do not think that sex education in schools could possibly be argued against on the grounds that it would encourage promiscuity, when it's quite obviously that promiscuity is already here to stay.
And Carol Sinclair, coordinator of the Wichita Falls Family Planning Clinic.
In 1985, there were approximately 2,300 births at the General, and 300 of those were to teens.
4 people with 4 ideas to control the population, expose the problem and stamp out apathy, increase sex education in the home and in the classroom, push for more federal aid, and let people know they are affected.
Bill, people here in Texoma pick up the tab for overpopulation by increased deficits to support countries in trouble, increased unemployment, and we lose quality workers by the millions each year.
The thing I heard that caught my attention was the same thing we hear about so many other problems, lack of education and apathy.
That's what they're focusing on.
Thanks very much, Barry. Cindy?
Thank you very much, Skip. Now, extensive flooding has been reported by city work crews trying to evacuate people from their homes and apartments.
Nightcast reporter Barry Levy has been with some of the crews checking out the situation, and he joins us now live from the flood command post. Barry?
Bill and Cindy, high water continues to hamper rescue efforts in the city, along with making travel impossible for many people trying to get back to homes that haven't been flooded.
Traffic along rain-drenched streets is sparse this evening. High water in low-lying areas is keeping many people in their homes, hoping the waters don't join them. Stalled automobiles are markers of the efforts of some trying to challenge the torrential runoff without success. Trying to keep people out of the dangerous areas are the Sheriff's Department and police units. They're either patrolling, looking for rising waters, or stopped blocking access to deep areas. Blockades for some, though, are only an obstacle in an attempt to get home, a dangerous attempt with swift, unpredictable waters.
What are they going to have you doing the rest of the night?
Helping people evacuate, I guess, from over there around this flood area.
Standing by, waiting for the water to show some droppage, are city work crews. They'll be up through the night aiding in rescue attempts.
Here at the command post, the police, sheriff's department, and over 50 city workers have gathered to handle spot emergencies as a result of the flood. Now, by using the command post, they can utilize a single dispatcher instead of having to use their usual several.
Barry, thank you very much for your report. You'll be standing by, and if anything additional comes up during the newscast, we'll be going back to you. The command post is set up at Jacksboro Highway.
Tonight on Night Beat, all of the activity this evening is happening out at the Emergency Command Post, which is located at Jacksboro Highway and Midwestern Parkway. So let's go back to our Nightcast reporter, Barry Levy. Barry, what's the latest?
Cindy, here at the command post, spirits are up. Police report no injuries as a result of the flood, and damage is expected to be low in high water areas. Now, the police are still emphasizing the need for people to stay off the roads because there's still flood water in many of the roadways. And if someone does need help, they can contact the police, and there'll be someone ready to lend a hand. Several people out here.
All right, thank you very much, Barry, and thank you for braving the weather conditions for us. How about
Well, school has been out for a few weeks now, and if you're a parent, you may be wondering how to include some educational activities in your child's summer. Educational specialists say this is a good time to work with youngsters on developing a faster rate of learning. Nightcast reporter Barry Levy joins us now from our newsroom with some tips on how you can help your child. Barry?
Brad, fun and time are the keys to parents successfully increasing their child's learning potential. The time to start is at birth, but it's never too late, according to education experts.
Children usually spend their summer playing, but not 10-year-old genius David Wong. He's a college sophomore studying biology this month.
An extended study of the circulatory system.
Well, when I was 4, it was 159.
David was born with a high IQ, but his mother took advice from specialists who told her to work with him and develop his learning potential. Otherwise, he would progress at the slower normal rate. Doctors say this type of early age teaching is beneficial only if the child is having fun and parents stick with what they start. Dr. Melvin Levine is a pediatrics professor who specializes in teaching parents how to help their children learn.
So I think one of the things you want to do to keep kids motivated, to keep them working, first of all, is to identify their strengths. What are the talents of my child, and are they being sufficiently exploited?
When I was, I think about 5, I read a few chemistry books, simpler ones, but they got me interested.
David's majoring in chemistry and takes advantage of his ability to focus his attention, which is a problem for many students but can be corrected.
Minimize distraction, to put a child near the front of the room, near the teacher, so that there isn't as much distraction, to keep giving that child feedback on his attention, to break things up into smaller chunks of data or work output, so that the kid doesn't burn out quite as easily.
David also has some advice for his 10-year-old peers.
Try not to watch TV when you're doing your homework.
Brad, this story is uncommon today, but specialists say with more parents taking advantage of the inexpensive educational games available, we'll be hearing more about children with high IQs.
That's interesting. I always did my homework watching TV, though.
Good evening. What would happen to your son or daughter if he or she were caught under the influence of drugs or alcohol while in school? Tonight, in an effort to set procedure meeting state standards, Wichita Falls School Board members approved revisions to a discipline management plan. Nightcast reporter Barry Levy attended tonight's school board meeting. Barry, will this mean a major change in school policy?
Cindy, what the board has done is firm up 2 current policies to meet wording used by the Texas Education Agency. Now, the first policy deals with the use of drugs and alcohol, and the second on notifying parents that their child is being removed from school.
Alcohol and drug use by students while in school in Wichita Falls last year showed no significant increase or decrease compared to past years, something that pleases school board members. The problem has stabilized, and new efforts should have use slowing in upcoming school semesters.
We're very concerned with it. Our Board of Trustees have made it known that they want to make sure as far as possible that we have a drug and alcohol-free campus.
Board members are dealing with the problem in a new fashion. They've added to a current policy so that the maximum penalty for a first-time offender is 10 days of home-based instruction. The student is suspended for 10 days but continues classwork in the home.
In the past, we've been able to remove a student, and then when the student returned to school, he or she would be allowed to make up their work. It's basically the same, except now we'll have to send the work home with them.
The second policy addition made by the board requires school officials to not send a student home for a disciplinary problem until a parent or relative has been contacted. This ensures clear communication of the reason for sending the child home.
Cindy, there is an alternative to home-based suspension. A student and his parents can attend a drug education program sponsored by the school district. It's been in use for 2 years now and quite successful.
That way to get both involved there to try and curb the problem. Sounds like a good idea. Thank you very much, Barry.
This is News Center 3 Nightcast with the News Center 3 News Team.
Good evening. Tonight, city officials say the situation with the Wichita Dam is not as grave as portrayed in the media. The comment was made in tonight's city council meeting and follows the re-release of a survey made by the Army Corps of Engineers classifying the Lake Wichita Dam as one of 210 unsafe dams in Texas. Nightcast reporter Barry Levy attended tonight's meeting and he joins us now. Barry, what problem did the council have with the way the situation was reported?
Bill, the council pointed out an article in the Sunday edition of the Dallas Morning News. Council members say the article placed the Wichita Dam with over 600 dams in the U.S. that are unsafe, with no efforts being made to rectify the problems. Now, the council members say this is not the case with the Wichita Dam.
City officials admit the Wichita Dam is unsafe, but they disagree with the Dallas Morning News, implying the city is doing nothing to solve the problem.
The Dallas Morning News chose not to carry the full story because it was a better story not to.
Council members heard from City Planning Director George Bonnet. He says the citizens of Wichita Falls will pay for their share of the dam reconstruction by virtue of the passage last July of the $9 million bond issue.
Those funds are sufficient in magnitude to pay the local match of the federal program if it comes to fruition.
Bonnet added there are other measures in use to slow the problem.
The City Council has, by their previous action, however, mitigated the problem with the dam significantly by directing us to maintain as closely as we can the water elevation in the dam at 976.
Mayor Harper's final comment was aimed at calming citizens.
I think that we want to be sure that the media lets the people in Wichita Falls know that they're not sitting there with a cock gun at their head like the Dallas Morning News said we were.
Bill Bonnet said if the city does not get a federal program, there won't be sufficient funds to address the dam or McGrath Creek.
And of course that 976 is well below the level that puts any pressure on the dam on a day-to-day basis.
Correct.
Okay, Barry, thanks very much.
This is Jennifer Keyboard. Here's the paper.
Too bad for this time of year.
Not bad at all.
All right. Skip, I have a question to ask you. As a child, were you one of those that was afraid of Santa Claus, or did you like him?
I am so old, I don't remember, but I don't think I was scared of him.
You're so old. I don't think you should say that, Skip. Well, Santa has arrived in our city, and Barry Levy went out to meet him this morning. Barry's now standing by at Psych Center Mall, and Barry, you got a whole crew. What's going on out there?
I've made a lot of friends. Linda, photographer Robert Hall and I did survive the arrival of Santa Claus, and it wasn't easy with the hundreds of kids and adults out. But I do have some new friends I'd like you to meet. We have Teresa Van Dawn, who thinks Santa Claus does have a favorite television show. Teresa, what do you think? What's his favorite television show?
Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
Does he watch anything else? You think he watches the news show?
Frosty the Snowman.
Frosty the Snowman. We also have Laura and Lee Troll for us. Okay, Laura, what about his favorite football team? Would he have one?
I think it's Dallas, maybe.
Now, he doesn't go watching the cheerleaders or anything, does he?
I'm not sure about that, but I know his favorite thing is Dallas Cowboys.
Okay, thank you, Laura. Linda, we're going to wrap things up in a special way today. I think Laura has something she'd like to say for us.
This is Laura Troll with Live Camera 3.
Thank you, Laura.
That was cute. She did a good job, and she knows who Santa likes, doesn't she? No doubt in her mind. All right.
Recently, Terrell, Oklahoma has faced two major downfalls, the failure of their bank and complaints from outsiders against the school system. Well, residents there claim to have run into some bad publicity. So on our cover story tonight, News Center 3's Barry Levy took to the road and has an updated report.
That's right, Leslie. I visited with a young man who's lived in Terrell all his life. His name is Billy Martin, and his message is that Terrell has weathered the storm, and because of strong people, has brighter days ahead.
In town, they say Terrell, you know they're from out of town. If they say Terrell, you know they're from here.
Billy Martin runs the town grocery store. He also has some deep roots in Terrell, considering his grandparents moved here before Oklahoma became a state.
You've lived here all your life, and obviously you're proud for some reason. What would that be?
Well, because everybody here knows everybody. They trust everybody, and well, people just like living here, but that's what makes a little town.
The bank may have failed, and the school has run into some snags, but Billy is staying along with everyone else. They're proud of their city's heritage, all the way up to keeping the old city jail, which is located behind Billy's store.
This old jail is located right behind the grocery store. I hear it on Saturday nights in the past, way back there, it was full at times.
It doesn't seem like you want other people to worry about Terrell.
Terrell was here before there was an Oklahoma, and it will be here. It all gets back to the basic, simple community. Everybody here works. They either drive out of town to work, they work here, or they work on the farm. This is a farming community, and it's just the way we want it. I think everything, I think Terrell's in for brighter days. That's all I can see for it. If anybody would like to check out Terrell as a good place to live, I would suggest Terrell. Terrell.
Leslie, the word in Terrell is that the population is growing, and Billy says the reason is a new school, the low cost of living, and good people.
So they may have to expand that jail?
I hope not. I wouldn't want to be caught in there.
Okay. Good luck to Terrell. Thanks a lot, Barry.
Without people, a town, no matter what the size, will usually dry up, and with these tough North Texas winds, blow away. Well, tonight, News Center 3 starts a new segment in our newscast. We call it Our Town, and these unique stories will highlight the strength, humor, and pride of people living in communities surrounding Wichita Falls. Now, Barry Levy will be one of the reporters handling the new segment, and tonight you have an interesting man from Burke-Burnett.
Yes, and he ties in perfectly with the traditions of Texas. His name is Eugene Weekly, and for most of his life, he's worn his boots out in the rodeo circuit, but lately he's taken up the task of building the arenas themselves.
The chime of Eugene Weekly's spurs has been heard in dusty rodeo grounds across the state. But he'll tell you no matter where work or a rodeo takes him, their final resting place will be here at his arena in Burke-Burnett.
That's the way I used to do it.
Since you build arenas and you've ridden in them, is there one particular aspect that you enjoy more than the other?
It pays more to work than it does to ride in them, but it's part of my life. And dang, I'm just not going to give up. I'm going to keep trying, you know. A lot of people, they get 40, they go, well, we're down over the hill, you know, and I'm not going to be that way. I'm just going to try to keep hanging and rattling.
If Eugene's not building an arena, then he's in one, working with younger men who'd like to take up where he's left off.
Wild West show.
Think you'll teach them anything?
I doubt it. They're awful hard-headed.
But you just can't replace 20 years of wrestling steers and welding pipe.
Do you have a philosophy on life that keeps you going?
Try to work hard, stay busy, pay all my debts if I can, and keep it going. I can't point anything that would be, you know, really outstanding, because I just like what I do and how I do it, the way I do it, so I have to stick with what I've got, you know. I guess if ever was changing anything, I'd just be born rich instead of broke.
Do you think with all the things you've done in Texas, you're ever going to give up your Texas lifestyle?
No, I don't think I can handle that. Boy, that wouldn't be worth the dirt.
It's very nice, very nice.
Well, next week, Mike Hignight's going to introduce us to a man called, or named Jeff Stanberg, and he's the cow chip throwing champ of Our Park, and I think Mike says he's going to show us some of his best techniques.
Cow chip throwing next week on Our Town. Thank you very much, Barry.
Intended for city use, but some local residents say they can't deal with problems they're blaming on construction of a water reservoir extension. News Center 3's Barry Levy says Langford Street homeowners want construction stopped, but city officials want them to be patient.
The dirt and noise from construction of this reservoir extension has caused a cloud of turmoil for the people whose homes line this alley. Instead of a vacant lot, the residents now have a 30-foot wall of dirt to contend with. Joe Bennett lives on the corner of Langford, and he showed me the view he has of the reservoir. And when we spoke, I wasn't surprised he was disappointed.
What sort of response did you get out of the city?
Not any.
What did they tell you?
They just told me that they could do whatever they want to do.
Bennett says the residents are worried about an increase of skunks, snakes, rats, and mosquitoes. They're also complaining of privacy and children playing near a dangerous area. As far as the rodents and insects, I wanted an expert opinion, so I talked with exterminator David Shoup.
Because of the reservoir being put in, are the residents here going to have a problem with, let's say, rats and mice, mosquitoes?
Anytime you start doing any dirt work in a pasture or start upsetting the habitat, you're going to have an increase in your rodents and insects, because they have to go somewhere. So they're going to head for the residents here in the houses, and it'll be a problem for a while. But once it's established, I don't think they'll have much of a problem.
From where I am, I can see into several backyards, and if I were a youngster, there's a good chance I could fall into the reservoir. But by taking a few steps like the city, I can show you how these problems will be remedied. They'll be placing a 6-foot fence topped with barbed wire here to surround the entire complex when it's completed.
So the noise and dirt will continue filling the air, with no solution in sight for the angry residents, except for a few who have taken the only way out.
Barry, you've presented the side of the resident. Obviously, though, this is a two-sided situation.
Well, it is. I spoke with Public Works Director Jerry Gross, and he says the extension is being built to meet our city's demand for more treatable water and also to allow maintenance and cleaning of the old reservoir, which can't be done without a backup water source.
I understand the residents are also concerned about flooding?
Well, during heavy rains, that area generally has water problems, but Mr. Gross assured me that when the extension is complete, it will actually control flooding. And in regards to the rodent problem, this can be attributed to upcoming cold weather. And if mosquitoes get bad enough in the area, I'm sure at the demand of residents, the city can always increase spraying in that area.
All right, just have to wait and see. Thanks very much, Barry.
Good evening. Tonight, officials across the nation are questioning the validity of a Harvard public health report on hunger in America. In that report, physicians claim Texas has more counties with people going hungry than any other state. Nightcast reporter Barry Levy has a breakdown of the national, state, and regional areas the report singles out as having severe problems. Barry?
Cindy, officials in the affected areas are criticizing the report because they say it relies solely on government information and not first-hand statistics.
The study singled out 150 counties in 24 states.
Cindy, I mentioned at the top of the story that the report does rely on government statistics. So to further validate the report, Harvard plans to send teams to the counties they studied, and they'll have a new report for Congress sometime in May.
Barry, what about in Wichita Falls? Do we have hunger problems in our area?
It's a very important question, and why we're here at an institution that does serve the needy. We don't have a problem thanks to institutions like the Salvation Army that serves meals to 150 people daily. Now, we also have the Faith City Mission that serves 30 to 35 people a day, and it's institutions like this and donations from the citizens that keep the hungry fed in Wichita Falls.
Thank you very much, Barry. A very good and very interesting report.
Good evening. Even at this moment, Oklahoma FDIC employees are feverishly auditing records of the National Bank of Frederick. Earlier, the Comptroller of Currency declared the bank insolvent and appointed the FDIC as receiver of the institution. Nightcast reporter Barry Levy has just returned from speaking with banking officials in Frederick, and he joins us now. Barry, in a situation like this, the FDIC usually finds a buyer for the bank. What's the situation here?
Bill, surprisingly, they haven't. Officials there say the bank has been in trouble for the past 2 years, which should have brought an interested party, but it hasn't. So what they're doing is transferring deposits to another bank in Frederick.
Tonight, there's more activity in the National Bank of Frederick than there's been in several years. Some 40 bank and FDIC employees are auditing records and verifying all assets and liabilities of the bank. Its doors have been shut. The cause of the bank's failure is said to be bad loan practices, a depressed economy, and inadequate supervision by the bank's board. However, all deposits are being transferred to First National, a Frederick bank just down the street. So for most users of the bank, nothing's changed.
Checks written on the National Bank will be honored as long as there's money in the account. There's no other risk involved than what their risk was yesterday. So anybody with $100,000 or under has no worry. They're not going to see any major change or disruption in services.
McCarty stresses the need for most bank users to continue business as usual. This includes any business that may receive a check from the National Bank of Frederick. All bank accounts are insured up to $100,000, so for depositors who feel they are not fully covered, bank officials suggest you contact them in the morning to discuss possible losses and how you may go about gaining them back.
Bill, the bank will reopen for business as usual on Saturday as a branch of the First National Bank and Trust Company of Frederick.
Closed Friday, tomorrow, open again on Saturday.
Back to you.
Takes them a day to get things organized.
Exactly.
Thanks very much, Barry.
Sure.
Cindy?
Have you